But let's take a look back at your season. It got off to an awful start, right? Where Teddy Bridgewater drops back to pass on what was supposed to be a super short practice, right?
Correct.
And his knee just goes out. Where were you when it took place?
So I was just downfield running a route. Like you said, if my memory serves me correctly, it was the second play of practice. I believe the first play was a run play, and he just handed the ball off. But it was the first pass play of practice. And, yeah, it was one of the most freakish injuries I've ever seen in sports.
Okay, so I got to ask. We heard like there was a sound that was on. Could you hear the sound that everybody said?
No. I mean, there was all kinds of crazy things that came out of practice that day. Like guys were running to the side and throwing up, and the sound that you could hear it, none of which were true. I think the most true statement was just how deflated our team was when everyone realized how serious it was. And partly because of the nature of the injury, but also because of who it was. And everybody knows that Teddy's such a great kid, and he had worked so hard to put himself in a situation. Now we're at the last preseason practice of the year. We're on a short week. We play the Thursday night preseason game. This is our one day as a team to get a little bit of work when everyone knows we're not playing a snap in that game. We've had our last preseason tune-up, and it's time to get ready for our first game. And after that, you kind of that was it. We went to the locker room, and I remember seeing Teddy later that night. Went over to the hospital and spent some time with him, and his attitude hasn't changed since that day. He's just attacking it head on, and he doesn't have a doubt in his mind that he'll be the same player again. Yeah, but
I think the other people, even your head coach is like, look, we have no idea when he's coming back, what he's going to be like. We'll get to that in a second. Kyle Rudolph joining us in the Doug Gottlieb Show, CBS Sports Radio. So then you guys trade for Sam, and you've joined us before. Talk about Sam and what a stabilizing force he was. And I'm sure to him it was a breath of fresh air, right? The idea of, hey, I walk in and this team is loaded. When did it first? You guys started off 5-0.
Yeah.
When did you know things maybe weren't as good as the record would tell you?
Well, I think, you talk about Sam coming in and the situation that he came into, the talent that surrounded him. There was a lot of talk about through Sam's career in 6 seasons, I believe he had a 100-yard rusher a few times. Then he gets to come here and play with Adrian. And the second game of the season, Adrian Peterson is no more and has knee surgery. Just another thing that we had to deal with this year. But, you talk about the course of that 5 games, and it seemed like each and every week you gain more and more confidence in the fact that no matter who we play and where we play, we feel like we can win. And then we go into the bye after playing, the Houston Texans week 5, and still at that point, there was no sign of anything to come. And we went to Philly right after the bye, then Chicago, and didn't play well in either of those games. But, I still feel like at that point, it's like, you play 16 games throughout the course of the year. You're going to have a couple times where you just don't play well. And then you try to get it back on track, and we blow a few fourth quarter leads, which is uncharacteristic of us. And at that point, it's like, okay, we got a problem here. We just went from 5-0, everything in front of us, to we got our work cut out for us. And it just seemed like we could never get back on that track. Obviously, there's many of reasons and plenty of excuses that you could make with injuries and adversity that we had to face. But the bottom line is we won 8 games, and there was a few games that we felt like we let get away and could have been right there with another 10-win season.
There's a story out there that Mike Zimmer scattered stuffed animals around the locker room when you guys were 5-0. And they were all cats. They were all some sort of cats, which one of my daughters would love to gather up these stuffed animals. Anyway, and they were bloody, right? And and the line was "Fat cats get slaughtered."
Correct, and Zim did not slaughter the cat. That's what happens when you leave a stuffed animal in a locker room. The phrase was used that fat cats get slaughtered, and that was just him reminding us, like, hey, things aren't always as good as they seem. And also, like, throughout our skit, it was things aren't as bad as they seem. Like, somewhere in the middle lies reality. And of course, one of the cats got left in the locker room. And when you leave it in the locker room for long periods of time, something's going to happen to it. So it was not Zim that slaughtered the cat and put blood all over it.
Can you give us a hint?
I honestly don't know who did it.
Come on.
I'm serious.
Kyle Rudolph joining us. And then you guys lost like your whole offensive line too. Well, there's some crazy parts about this season, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like where there were moments in which Adam Klug and I have gotten in this argument about Stefon Diggs. I swear to God, I think he's a top 5 talent as a wide receiver.
Yeah.
Like he is an absolute freak. And well, why doesn't he have freak numbers? Like, dude, the guy Bradford has no time. He gets back. He actually, Sam Bradford, didn't he set the single season mark for completion percentage?
Yep.
But it's because he has to get rid of the ball so quickly because he doesn't have time. Help me out with the Diggs thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a crazy conversation to put him in that the category of the uber elite wide receivers?
Absolutely not. I mean, I think if you watch him prepare, watch him practice, the skill set and the ability is second to none. I mean, you don't see guys with the physical skill set that he has anywhere.
So what's missing? Why doesn't he?
Well, I mean, you look at our identity as a team and, go back to last year, his rookie year, when he had some production for us and was a good player. And then this year, slowed by a couple injuries, missed some games throughout the course of the year. I mean, but you go look at a stretch of games that we had in the middle of the season, and he has back-to-back games with 13 receptions and set the franchise record for receptions 2 weeks in a row. But our identity is not to sling it around. We're not the New Orleans Saints. We're not going to air it out 55 times. That's not how we win football games. We run the football, play good defense. And, obviously as Adrian went down, our offensive line, I think we played 7 or so different combinations of starting lineups in 16 games. So obviously things were slowed in the run game, but, that's always going to be our identity. That's how we feel like we best win football games. So that gaudy statistic, pleasing all fantasy football owners, not ideal for us to win games. And obviously that's what's most important.
Kyle Rudolph joining us on the Doug Gottlieb Show, CBS Sports Radio. And then the Norv Turner's exit right in the middle of the season, in which there was basically some sort of dispute over where the direction of the offense. What was that like for you guys to, hey, this guy had installed the offense. We're told that he's a great, quarterback whisperer, and he's somebody who, by the way, loves to use a really good tight end.
Yes.
To see him leave in the middle of the year, what was that like for you?
It was surprising. Honestly, like I had mentioned when the whole thing went down, we played that Monday night. So then our schedule was a little different the week following, and we had like a late start on Wednesday, give our bodies a little bit more time to recover and get into our next week's game plan. So we didn't report that day till about noon. And by 10 o'clock, the story had already broke across national media, and my phone is blowing up. People asking me what's going on up there, and, did Norv leave? What happened? And I had no idea anything had happened. So it was interesting. Then we have our team meeting, and Zim told it like it was. And, we obviously, having worked for Norv and played under Norv for almost 2.5 years, I've got nothing but respect for him. And, it was his decision that he felt like he needed to be made in terms of our team moving forward. And you have to respect that, because a lot of guys, I feel like, would just kind of ridden the season out and, not been fully committed to what we were doing. And, people say it all the time that, like, if you're not all in, we don't really want you here, but people don't ever like actually do it. You know what I mean? So I think that was the feeling amongst our locker room, that no one lost respect for him. Everybody still had respect for him and for his decision.